Formula One just built its future, and now it might be tearing it apart. In less than a month, the sport went from celebrating its most advanced engine ever, to secretly debating how to fix it. Because the 50-50 engine, the one designed to redefine Formula One, is already creating problems no one expected this early. Drivers are lifting on straights. Cars are losing speed at the worst possible moments. And behind closed doors, the FIA is pushing for urgent changes. But here's the twist. The CEO of Formula One, and several top teams, are actively trying to stop those changes. This is not a small disagreement. This is a full-scale internal conflict between the people who control the rules, the people who control the money, and the people who control performance. And it's happening right now, just days before a crucial decision that could change everything. Because if the FIA wins, the entire concept of this new era shifts overnight. If the teams win, the problem stays on track. And if no one agrees, Formula One heads into Miami with a system that is already under pressure. And one mistake away from becoming a full-blown crisis. At first, it didn't look like a crisis. It looked like adaptation. New rules always take time. New systems always feel different. And in Formula One, teams are used to solving problems faster than anyone else. So when the first signs appeared, nobody panicked. Drivers lifting on straights. Engine behavior changing mid-lap. Energy becoming the deciding factor, instead of pure pace. At first, it was explained away. Learning phase. Optimization. Early season adjustments. But then something changed. Because the same issues kept happening. Not once. Not twice. Every race. And that's when the narrative started to break. Because this wasn't adaptation anymore. This was a pattern. And patterns in Formula One are dangerous. Because they expose something deeper. Something structural. And internally, that's exactly what the FIA began to realize. That the problem wasn't isolated. It wasn't track-specific. It wasn't even team-specific. It was built into the system itself. And once that realization happens, everything accelerates. Meetings get scheduled. Engineers start comparing data. Teams stop hiding concerns and start sharing them. Not publicly, but enough to trigger action. Because when multiple teams report the same behavior, at the same time, you're no longer dealing with a coincidence. You're dealing with a flaw. And that's the moment Formula One found itself in. A system designed to be the future. Starting to behave in ways nobody fully predicted. And here's where it becomes even more uncomfortable. Because the 50-50 concept wasn't a last-minute idea. It was planned for years. Negotiated. Simulated. Approved by every major player in the sport. Which means one thing. Everyone signed off on it. Everyone believed in it. And now, those same people are questioning it. Quietly. Carefully. But increasingly, urgently. Because the longer this continues, the harder it becomes to defend. And the harder it becomes to fix without consequences. Which is why what happens next is not just about improving performance. It's about protecting credibility. Because once a regulation starts to fail this early, the real damage isn't just on track. It's in the confidence of the entire system. And that's something Formula One cannot afford to lose. But here's where the situation stops being technical and becomes political. Because once everyone agrees there is a problem, the next question is far more dangerous. Who is responsible for fixing it, and how far are they willing to go? And that's where the sport splits. Not into teams on track, but into power groups behind the scenes. On one side, the FIA. They see a system that needs intervention. Not next season. Now. Because from their perspective, this isn't just about performance. It's about control, predictability, and more importantly, safety. When cars behave inconsistently on straights, when drivers are forced to manage energy in ways that reduce visibility and reaction time, that's not just inefficient. It's risky. And risk is the one argument the FIA can always use to justify action. So their approach becomes more direct. Reduce electric deployment. Calm the system down. Make the cars easier to read. More stable. More traditional in behavior. But that's where they hit immediate resistance. Because on the other side sits Liberty Media. And for them, this solution is not acceptable. Not because it doesn't work, but because of what it represents. Rolling back the electric side means admitting that the core concept didn't deliver as expected. And that's a problem far bigger than lap time. Because this era of Formula One was sold as a technological revolution. A bridge between racing and the future of automotive innovation. A platform for manufacturers to justify their investment. And if that vision changes now, the entire narrative weakens. Sponsors start asking questions. Partners start reassessing value. And suddenly, a technical adjustment becomes a commercial risk. So Liberty's position becomes clear. Do not break the concept. Adjust around it. Protect the image even if the system needs refinement. And just when this tension reaches its peak, there's a third force that makes everything even more complicated. The teams. Because while the FIA is thinking about safety, and Liberty is thinking about business, teams are thinking about something far more immediate. Performance advantage. Some of them are struggling with this system, fighting to understand it, losing time, losing positions. For them, change is an opportunity, a reset, a chance to close the gap. But others have already mastered it. They've built cars around it, designed strategies around it, optimized every detail of energy deployment. And for those teams, change is a threat, because it removes the advantage they worked to create. And in Formula One, losing an advantage is the one thing no team accepts willingly. So they push back? Not emotionally, not publicly, but strategically. Support minor changes, reject major ones, delay decisions, shift focus. Because every day without a big change is a day their advantage remains intact. And now, everything is locked. The FIA pushing for meaningful intervention. Liberty Media protecting the long-term vision. Teams divided between those who need change and those who fear it. And right in the middle of that is a system that continues to behave the same way, race after race. Which creates a dangerous scenario. Because when a problem is clear, but the solution is blocked, pressure doesn't disappear. It builds. And in Formula One, when pressure builds without release, it always finds a breaking point. The only question now is where that breaking point will happen. On the track? Or inside the sport itself? And this is where everything becomes even more fragile. Because up to this point, the battle has been internal. Meetings, discussions, strategic resistance. But the moment this situation reaches the track again, everything changes. Because problems in Formula One don't stay hidden for long. They get exposed. In real time. At full speed. In front of millions of people. And that's exactly what everyone inside the sport is trying to avoid. Because if this system fails again, visibly, dramatically, there's no narrative that can protect it anymore. And here's the part that makes Miami so critical. It's not just another race. It's a deadline. An unspoken one. Because if the same issues appear there, on long straights, under heavy energy demand, with drivers pushing to the limit, then the conversation shifts instantly. From, we are analyzing the situation, to, why wasn't this fixed already? And that shift is dangerous. Because Formula One doesn't just sell racing. It sells precision, control, the idea that everything happening on track is the result of engineering perfection. But when cars start behaving unpredictably, that illusion breaks. And once it breaks, it's very hard to rebuild. But there's something even deeper happening underneath all of this. Something that doesn't show up on timing screens. Trust. Because right now, drivers are starting to question the system. Teams are questioning the direction. And even the governing body is questioning its own regulations. And when all three levels of the sport start questioning at the same time, that's not instability. That's a crisis forming. Because Formula One depends on alignment. Not agreement on everything, but alignment on the fundamentals. On what the sport is. On how it should behave. On what it promises to deliver. And right now, that alignment is breaking. Slowly, quietly, but visibly. Which leads to the most important moment of all. Not the race. Not even the vote. The moment after. Because whatever decision is made, it will not solve everything instantly. It will reveal something. If the changes are too small, the problem will return. If the changes are too big, the consequences will show. If nothing changes, the pressure explodes. And in every scenario, the truth comes out. Not in statements. Not in press conferences. But on track. Lap after lap. Corner after corner. Until one moment, one situation, forces everyone watching to realize whether Formula One fixed the problem, or simply delayed it. And when that moment arrives, there will be no debate left. Only one question. Was this revolution worth the risk? Or did it create a problem the sport wasn't ready to handle? And this is where the story reaches its most uncomfortable truth. Because everything you've heard so far, the tension, the disagreement, the urgency, it all points to one thing. Formula One didn't just create a difficult system. It may have created the wrong one. Not completely wrong. Not beyond repair. But wrong enough to force a question the sport never likes to ask. What if they misjudged the balance? Because the 50-50 concept sounded perfect in theory. Equal power. Equal importance. A perfect fusion of past and future. But Formula One has never been a sport that works on perfect balance. It works on extremes. On drivers pushing limits. On machines delivering everything, all the time. And what this system has introduced is restriction. Calculated performance. Moments where drivers are not pushing. They're managing. And that changes the DNA of the sport. Slowly, subtly, but significantly. Because when a driver exits a corner, the instinct is simple. Full throttle. Commit. Attack. But now, there's hesitation. There's calculation. There's a system deciding how much power is actually available. And that gap, between instinct and execution, is where the problem truly lives. But here's the detail that ties everything together. This wasn't hidden. This possibility existed from the beginning. Engineers knew the complexity. Teams understood the risks. The FIA approved it anyway. Because the reward seemed worth it. A new era. A new identity. A new Formula One. And now, just a few races in, that identity is already under pressure. So when the vote happens, it won't just decide technical changes. It will reveal something much bigger. Whether Formula One is willing to adapt. Or whether it will defend a concept even when that concept starts to crack. Because sports at this level don't fail overnight. They drift. They adjust slowly. They protect decisions longer than they should. Until one moment forces a reaction. And Miami might be that moment. Not because of the track. Not because of the race itself. But because of what it could expose. If the cars behave the same way. If the same issues appear. If drivers are once again managing instead of attacking. Then the conclusion becomes impossible to avoid. The system isn't just flawed. It's limiting the sport. And if that happens, no statement will be strong enough to contain it. No explanation will be convincing enough to justify it. Because at that point, everyone will see it. Clearly. Undeniably. And that leads to the final question. The one everything has been building toward. Not whether changes are needed. Not whether the FIA or the teams are right. But something much more fundamental. Is Formula One still in control of its own future? Or is it now reacting to a system it created, but no longer fully understands? Because if the answer is the second one, then this isn't just a technical crisis. It's something far deeper. And far more difficult to fix.